Hey guys, my name is Radek, I'm your 2K03 TA, and we are continuing on. So, 1879, so this is when the Depression ends. The prairie wheat boom. Here we see Ottawa agreeing to subsidize the rail rates, and this is so the CPR can build from Alberta to the Rockies to BC. Now, in return, the CPR reduced the rates in perpetuity on grain exports and incoming materials used to build homes. These were called crow rates, and this is really important right here. Crow rates were suspended during the First World War to raise revenue and reimposed in 1929. Pétain abolished the crow rates in 1990. So why were the crow rates so important? Because crow rates encouraged settlement. Now, at the time, 1879, U.S. places duties on saw and lumber. So BC responds with an embargo on logs in 1891, and Ontario does the same thing in 1898. What was the result? Log exports decreased and lumber exports increased. New technology targeted cellulose and wood, and either ground or treated with chemical to produce pulp. What's pulp? You have ground, which is used for newsprint, and we have chemical, which is used for fine paper. Now, if you've taken the water class, you'll see that these pulp and paper mills, they produce a lot of waste, which is really bad for the environment, and we see a lot of bad economic results coming from these pulp and paper mills, but that's neither here nor there. So the ideal wood was spruce, and creating paper was really energy intensive. So central Canada had hydro capacity. With hydro capacity, this was a cheaper, more efficient source of electricity, so these pulp and paper mills would want to ideally locate near a source of hydroelectricity. There was a huge U.S. demand for pulpwood because it enters a U.S. duty-free, so there was no duty on pulpwood at the time. So post-1870s, there's three important facts about manufacturing. There's national trade policy tariffs, there's post-1870 manufacturing, and there is manufacturing concentration in Ontario. And please see the video on the three important points about manufacturing after 1870. This is a separate video. I kind of talk about these things a little more in depth. So yes, find that video after you're finished with these. So 1879, Thomas Edison creates the light bulb, and there is the appearance of central electric systems. 1 year later, 1880, the emergence of hydroelectric. We see advancements in generator technology which provides cheaper electricity and more of it. Now, going kind of aside from the electric aspect, here are some important dates regarding unions. We're going to do a little bit of backtracking. I'm not too sure if unions are going to be covered on your second midterm or not. If not, you'll have to kind of come back to this video later on for your final. So 1859, we see that there's only one union. 1859 and later, we see international unions appearing. 1863, Hamilton unions form the Trade Assembly of Union. 1871, we have 5 craft unions at the time, and the Toronto Trades Assembly of Unions. 1872, Ottawa Trade Council of Unions. 1873, First National Trade Unions Assembly. And 1875, St. Catherine Trade Council of Unions. And in 1880, we hit an economic downturn. So 1881, we're 1 year into the economic downturn, and we see more canals in Niagara region, and this provides enough power to light up Niagara Falls and the village of Niagara. Hydro Niagara had the first attempt in 1759, but the canal above the U.S. Falls was too small. Now, the important thing is we're in an economic downturn, so a lot of manufacturing will want to be locating near cheaper electricity. Cheaper costs, they can generate more profit. So we'll see manufacturing locating closer and closer to Niagara, and this is where we see a lot of manufacturing in the secondary sector emerging in Ontario. 1892, the Canadian Power Company is incorporated. 1896, the prairie wheat boom of 1896. Prairies captured the world majority share in the wheat market. At this time, Wilfrid Laurier takes office, transportation costs fall, cereal prices increased, interest rates are historically low, Capital and labor flows increased, and immigration policies were supported. So we see there's two notes. There is that transportation costs are at an all-time low. So streetcars kind of had a part in this because a lot more people were commuting at a cheaper cost. We see better steam power, and we see, well, that's kind of it. So immigration policies were supported, and this is really important because with growing immigration, your economy is growing as well, or that was the belief. Now in the 1990s, not all houses had electricity. In fact, most were still using wood to heat, and the only problem with this was that wood was almost exhausted. Most factories were using coal, and coal was expensive and had to be imported. So coal was imported usually from Pennsylvania or Alberta, which is pretty dang far away for Ontario, and most electricity was derived from coal at the time. So this is why hydroelectric was great. It provided a clean, cheap source of electricity, and manufacturing began to locate near it because it kept the cost down. Now, at the time, the government services in the 1900s, welfare was kept minimal and was designed to degrade those on welfare. If you were on welfare, you were seen as a failure. But the problem was that before World War I, many workers were seasonal and had to save all their income during the summer. Now, government finances in the 1900s. Ottawa financed spending by tax and debt. Custom duties provided by the federal government were 80% of their revenue. Today, custom duties are only about 5% of the Canadian revenue. Governments usually ran a deficit at the time, and provinces had new responsibilities. The provincial responsibilities, for example, were transit, new sewage system, health and sanitation, crime control, slum clearance, education, just to name a few. So the government introduced income taxes. There was the BC income tax in 1876 and Prince Edward Island personal and corporate tax in 1894. So I think that we have significantly covered the material for your second midterm, maybe even a little bit more so. Whatever you haven't covered from what I've covered, please just disregard and just make notes for the final, I guess. And I will be posting some videos already in advance for your final exam, and I will try to make a good overall review about the important dates and some important terms. Remember, if you have any specific questions on about anything regarding Canadian economic history, anything that I may have missed, anything you want me to talk about, post on this video. I check YouTube daily to see if you guys have any comments, and best of luck on your second midterm.